We are back, Estate Agency Mastery with Alex from Estate Apps. Now, the reason I've got Alex on is now he's a supplier, and I don't really like having suppliers on, but this guy will deliver some brilliant stuff. And we've known each other for a while, and we always geek out on certain things, whether it's the Australian Real Estate Conference, whether it's how to send your listings live, review, whatever. And he's got some great stuff in store. So the question is, Alex, whether you're an agent in Birmingham, Belfast, or Bognor Regis, give me 3 tips that I can go and implement into my business tomorrow.
Okay, so reviews is the first one. Social proof. If I'm doing a business with anyone, and I do mean anyone, I'm going to look at their Google reviews. That's the first thing I'm going to do. So if I was setting up an agent, if I was an established agent, I would make sure my reviews are on point. How you do that, actually, there's multiple ways, but for sure, you need to be asking for reviews at every possible opportunity. What I tend to find is most agents that I speak to end up asking for reviews at the end of a process, you know, sold, completion and whatever. That's way too late. Way too late. You're going to be very lucky to get that review at that point, because you can only ask a couple of times before you start spamming them, really, you know, because they've moved on, their journey's ended with you. Not in a bad way, obviously, but you know, what I would do is I'd start asking way sooner. So some of my favorite points in, you know, things like good viewings. You've just done a really good viewing. That's a perfect opportunity. Good offers. That's another one. These are all touch points. A lot of agents forget about all of that and just think about the end. It's too late.
There's so much tied up in what you've just said. I was with a mate of mine in Malaysia a few months back, and it's the first time I've seen. He goes, "Oh, should we order this?" And he went, "Let me just check the reviews out." And I was like, "Oh, well, people do this," because I don't necessarily. It was really interesting. And so yeah, that's what I do now, and I think it's the way of the world. So, you know, because I always go, well, not everyone thinks the same way as me. But 2, you touched on Google reviews. So I speak to a lot of agents, go, "Oh, we've got 500 trust pilots." If there was one review tool that you said was the most important, would it be Google reviews?
It absolutely would be, yes. Why? Because, well, I mean, when people ask me this question, because I get this question a lot, there's 2 platforms I recommend. The first is Google, and it always will be Google, but that's mainly because everyone uses Google. You know, to do anything on the internet, 90% of that population is going to use Google, especially in the UK. The second platform is Facebook. Facebook is not as widely used for reviews, but it is a part of your social proof. And because there's so many people on it, it kind of makes sense to cover it. When I see an agent hiding, because you can hide the review section from Facebook, that immediately gets, I think, that's suddenly quite suspicious, you know? So yeah, I mean, bottom line, I don't even mind if there's negative reviews on there. That's a lot of agents get scared because of the negative reviews on there, but that's actually a good thing, because it shows as well, depending on how you answer it, because obviously I'm going to read that as well. That shows it's progress. That shows you've learned from that mistake or that issue or whatever it is. It might, half the time it's not even to do with you anyway, so that's absolutely fine. But you can't avoid negative feedback. The point is, everyone looks at reviews. It is a standard thing, you know. Agents have just got to get that into their heads. It's so important. It's insane. And from a Google perspective, the reason I talk about Google a lot is because most people start. In terms of a property journey, most people start on the portals. But in reality, they're going to, rather than going straight through to do business with that agent, they're going to check them out on Google. They're going to check out their website. They're going to make sure that that brand is what they want to use, work with, and so on, especially from a landlord and seller perspective. Google is going to be a huge part of that, you know?
Yeah. Do you know what? I completely agree. And my view is, if you're an agent listening to this now and you go, "Oh, I'm part of AJB Estates," set up Chris Buckler, AJB Estates, or the estate agency, or the estate agent, sorry, and start building your own reviews on you and your personal service. Now, you might get a bit in trouble with that with your language or whatever else.
Yeah.
But in the world where I believe by 2030, 50% of transactions will be done by self-employed brokers, start
Mm.
getting, or maybe ask permission first. I'm not saying don't tell your manager. I'm
Yeah.
just saying just do it, right? Because actually, um, it's so true, and you get to carry that with you wherever you go. And you've nailed it in terms of if you do a good viewing and someone goes, "You're a brilliant agent. I haven't met an agent like you. Listen, I know you've not bought off me, maybe well, haven't even offered off me.
Yeah.
Would you mind just leave me a quick review?" And one of the tips I like here is rather than I don't mind what star it is. You know, if they've said that, they're going to give you a 5 star. Do you mind just giving a
Yeah.
bit of dialogue? And it's great
Yeah.
having 400 5-star reviews, but if they're like great agent, good service, it's a bit
Yeah.
forced. If it goes on and said, you know, Chris turned up 15 minutes before the viewing, and we know that because we were driving around the area. He allowed half an hour for the viewing, and when we came in, you could tell that the vendor was a smoker, but but we caught him with Febreze. He'd aired the house. He obviously really cared about the property. He knew about the boiler, he knew it intimately, and it was a pleasure to deal with. That dialogue is arguably
Yeah.
better at a 4 star
Yeah.
than a 5 star
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
agent.
Yeah, yeah. No, I entirely agree with that. I entirely agree. I sometimes get on for my business. I sometimes get people just doing the stars with no text at all, and I just think, damn it, that's a missed opportunity. But in my head, I know next time I speak to them, I'm going to get them to change that or ask them to change it because that it's just the stars on their own doesn't mean anything. No one that's nothing. What I really want is a story. Actually, another interesting thing, right? And I don't know if you know this. In fact, you and I have spoken about this before. A lot of people don't know that you can update a Google review. So, for example, if I ask someone at the very, very start of the journey, "Oh, you're just about to sign with us. How are you finding the experience so far? How have I been doing so far?" Get them to do a little quick review. Yeah. Um, let's say at the end of the process, you ask them again. "Oh, you know that review? Did you mind updating it?" They can go back to your ABC estate agents, go to the review section, update. Actually, you won't obviously add a new review, but you can click on the review, the write a review, and it will show you what you wrote before, and you can then add to it.
Like
Um,
that.
and essentially, that is like an update. And I've got tons where it's literally the first part of the review is what they found the process to be. The second part is a year later, and obviously they're still a client of ours, and blah blah. They're still loving the service and that sort of stuff. That's it. Suddenly becomes a success story.
Yeah.
Oh, so much more powerful. So much more powerful. And of course, I've got an opportunity to go back and reply again because obviously, it doesn't affect the number of reviews you've got, obviously, because it's the same review, but it does bump it up the list. But it's so important. And people actually read that sort of stuff.
Love that.
The reason reviews is always my top thing to go to when I'm talking, especially to a startup agent, but nonetheless to anyone, is because you can build a business off reviews. Do you know what I mean? You know that. You like the better reviews are that's your word of mouth. That is your social proof. I get people coming to me, Alex. You can give me your sales spiel if you want, but I already know I'm going to use you because I've seen your reviews. You know, it's absolutely critical hearing things like that. And I get clients telling me that all the time. They get reviews based off the fact that they're the best reviewed agent in that area. I mean, you can't. That's gold. Absolute gold.
I love it. And there's a pretty cool review tool that you use at Estate Apps. I'm not going to plug it. I might put it in the show notes. But we've started using it. We've not actually rolled it out, but it's gold in what it does. So thank you for coming up with that. So simple. Right. Next tip. You went to ARIC, the Australian Real Estate Conference. I nearly went this year, but couldn't quite get my timings right when I was in Oz. And you picked up on something. This is in 2018, right?
2018, yeah, long time
Yeah,
ago now.
it's
uh,
a long time ago. But what was it?
um, so, well, first and foremost, if you haven't been to ARIC, do it. I'm not an estate agent, as you mentioned earlier, but I came away with reams of. I went there with my brother Adam, who runs a business with me. I came away with reams of notes. It was insane, all about business processes, marketing ideas, and so on. It's just nuts. So it's not completely geared towards an estate agent. Obviously, there's a lot of that talk, but nonetheless, it's actually business related as well. Anyway, that's the first thing. Second thing, what I loved about Australia, and actually I've started to see this a lot more in the UK now, is people, personality, making brands more personable. So even with the websites we produce, people are everywhere. You know, you're starting to see people. It's quite a common thing. So walking down the street in Australia, you would see a for sale board. That for sale board would have the brand, the logo, but it would be a really small part of that board. In fact, if you weren't looking hard enough, you'd actually miss it. Nice internal shot of the property, which is, again, I thought that's quite cool. Not just the outside of it, the actual, like a really nice shot from inside. You know, so you don't even have to go inside it. That's really cool. But next to it, the person's face that I'm going to be speaking to when I phone up that number that's on the board. And then, of course, their direct contact details. And a QR code maybe to scan and sign.
You're so much tied up in that, right? So I think Sam Ashdown was one of the first I know to do it in the UK, where you put on the for sale board, you put a bespoke internal photo, which was pretty cool and different. Yeah. But two, you're completely right. And I was speaking to someone the other day, I think it was Stephen Brown actually, online, we're going back and forth. He says, what did you pick up on your recent trip to Oz? And this is being filmed in 2024. And I said, the brand doesn't fear putting the agent out there.
Yeah.
More, this is a people-centric business. And we are slowly catching on here in the UK. And I know the brokerage models, it's about 1.6% of transactions are done by self-employed agents. But if you're a big corporate and you kind of listen to this, I think you can't afford not to put your people out there, because people buy people rather than the brand. And it's, for me, it's archaic. We're so far behind in the UK. But again, I come back to, if you're listening to this and you go, well, I'm employed by an agency, put pressure on your boss, your whoever, to help build you as a personal brand, and build yourself up as a personal brand, right? Make your social media so good that it's clear you're affiliated with that brand, but you're the go-to. So if I want to use AJB Estates, I want to use Alex, and I've seen Alex's socials, and that's just the way the rest of the world do it, and the way we're starting to move to here. So build your personal brand. And if you're listening to this and you own a big independent or one of the corporates, you've got to start pushing the personal brand of the agent. And it's that whole analogy of, what do we do if we train our staff and they leave? And it's the same thing, like, versus what do we do if we don't, and they stay, right? It's almost the same thing. If you don't put your agents out there, I mean, by putting your agents out there, they then have to up their value, right? Their friends, their family, everyone that are going to be seeing them, they can't be afford to be doing the little sly offers or not negotiating that hard or whatever it might be, because they're there. And I love that. I mean, it's absolutely huge.
Yeah, it's interesting. Since I came back, so the first thing we did when we came back, we built a feature called Your Personal Agent. So the digital version of it on your website, you can link properties to people, and it's really, really basic ideas, but no one was doing it at the time. No one was doing it. So you go to the property detail page, you see the person's face, you see their direct contact details, even a QR code to scan and download the contact details straight to your phone. It's just simple stuff, but it just made such an impact. Now, 6 years later, as you correctly said, it's our most popular feature.
Yeah.
Back when we built it, it was very few that thought, oh, that's a really good thing, I want that. But now things have changed. Even with the independents, the smaller independents, that is such a big thing now. It's insane. And actually, a top tip for you as well, from a website perspective, meet the team. Yeah, one of the top 5 pages in our entire platform every month.
Nice.
So in terms of traffic going to an agent's website, in the top 5 is meet the team. I think that says a lot.
It does. All right, we're not going to delve into that one too much, but I get it. What's your final tip?
I've been seeing this a lot. I'm seeing it a lot more now. Agents trying to, how do I say, be less reliant on the portals for sort of new listings. So what I'm seeing is essentially low profile. They're launching a listing on their website, on their social media, before they push it on the portals. A lot of CRMs have that functionality where you can just push it to certain things and then do the portals as and when you're ready. And I'm seeing a lot of our clients do that. And the fact that they started doing it for a day, like 24 hours, and now they're doing it 2, 3, 4, sometimes even a week. I know of people doing it now. That again says a lot.
Sounds like hard work though, because you can just launch it and it goes live on Rightmove the next day. So what's the point?
Because you're pushing it to your own audience.
I'm being facetious there. Yeah, right. It's
that is important, and it's giving you a reason to charge a higher fee, because your own audience is going to be more likely to offer a better price than random Joe Public, you know. And again, going back to my original point, the portals, yeah, they cost a lot. So, you know, it is kind of trying to, again, going back to building your own brand, it's kind of going back to that again, isn't it? Building that traffic, building that natural sort of search. With the portals, anyone can sell a house on the portals. That's not a job. Do you know what I mean? In my opinion.
And arguably, if you're getting them sold before they go onto portals, you're bringing your portal costs down anyway, right? Which is when I speak to agents, it's the number one thing they hate about our industry. And I don't like using the word hate often, but you know, if you're selling 10 a month and 5 of those don't hit the portals, brilliant. What a story to tell when you're pitching in the living room. We're number one on the move. I'll put you as a featured property. I'll reduce my fee. 50% of our properties sell before they go online. Or go on the portals. Wow.
And here's the stats to prove it. Here's the traffic that we get from our social, and so on and so on. It just goes on and on.
And by building pay-per-click out and everything else, what you're doing, you're growing your own database.
Really interestingly, I've got, and again, this is a 2024 thing that I'm starting to notice, is people actually coming away from portals completely. I know agents that are literally just doing all their traffic, all their marketing spend on social media and pay-per-click. And that is, again, I wouldn't have seen that for 2-3 years. That is just not a thing. But now, starting to become a thing.
I think people are that pissed off with the lack of evolution from the portals. Now, it's a really interesting one, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here. They offer the best return on investment in our business. That's the bottom line. And agents, in my view, need to increase their value proposition so that they don't worry about portals. And what's gold about this is it's kind of doing both. But if I'm going to say I'm gonna put it live before, I can't just do that and then say I've not found anyone. I've got to prove what I'm saying. But by proving what I'm saying and spending the money up front, I'm actually growing my brand, I'm growing my value proposition, etc. So, mate, I love that one.
Actually, interestingly, again, thinking about the other side of this, you're building your own confidence to do it again and again and again and as I said, I started seeing people doing it for a day. Now I know those same people that were doing it a day, like a year or two ago, they're doing it for a whole week now. Because they built the confidence to do it.
If you could drop me an email with who they are, if they're happy, I'll add their Instas or whatever to the show notes, because I think it's vital. I'm not here to promote myself, you, other agencies, but if they're doing something great and other agents can have a look, if they're happy, I'd love to put that in the show notes.
I can do that, no worries.
Good man.
Anyway, hopefully that's been useful. Alex,
that has been very useful, and you've delivered on time, so thank you so much.
Really?
You have.
That's got to be the first time ever.
There we go. Listen, I really appreciate you. It's been a great podcast. Lots to take away, lots of show notes for me to write up. Thank you so much.